Friends, welcome to Drawing Conversation, where I am your dedicated nerd host and artist, Danny Fisher. And today we're drawing the origin and history of One Punch! One Punch Man. Let's go. Friends, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to have you here. Thank you so much for coming back, and thank you for your time. And hey, if you're new, you know what to do. Hit that sub, leave a comment, hit the like, all those crazy things. At any rate, today we are talking about One Punch Man. So One Punch Man started as a webcomic, debuting in 2009. The webcomic that soon turned into a manga series, and then setting the world on fire when it debuted as an anime in October 2015. Created by One, aka Tomohiro, and illustrated by Yusuke Murata. And One Punch Man has always been written as a kind of tongue-in-cheek story. I mean, it has its serious times, but first and foremost, its goal is to make you laugh. At least that's how I've always found it. It's a very simple and easy concept, but also wildly funny. It's honestly the humor that kept pulling me back. And of course, the over-the-top battles. I mean, the art is top tier. And the camera angles are just astounding. I mean, it really pushes forced proportion to the next level. I love watching how the artists use different styles and techniques. It's kind of those subtle and nuanced elements that really makes the series so enjoyable to watch. Honestly, just give the first episode a shot. I mean, it's only like 20 minutes long, but it sets the stage perfectly on what is in store. So, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, or maybe just Japan, there lived a man known as Saitama. And Saitama is just a simple average dude working a 9-to-5, but one day he decides he's going to become a superhero. So he begins training, and he trains like crazy, like nonstop for 3 years, until he becomes the world's most powerful superhero. And not by a little. According to the series, he trains so hard that he loses all of his hair. Yeah, like every strand. I know, just silly. He's not just strong, he is like an order of magnitudes more powerful than anyone he's matched up against. He becomes so powerful, in fact, that he destroys all of his opponents with a single punch, earning the name One Punch Man. Now I want to talk just briefly about his powers. I mean, we just have to. So obviously he is insanely strong. I mean, it's described as immeasurable strength. Saitama possesses unlimited strength. Yeah, it's hard to get your head around. And while he can't fly on his own volition, he is so powerful that once he was punched so hard, he was sent to the moon. Yes, the moon. Well, he can't just take that lying down. So he decides to jump. And he jumps so hard that he lands back on Earth in just moments. Now, to put in perspective, the Apollo 11 mission took 3 days to reach the moon. Speaking of speed, again, immeasurable speed and reflexes. So while competing in a 1,500 meter dash, he does it in a blink of an eye. In fact, in the series, we see him reach supersonic speeds, like all the time. Even computerized tracking systems have a hard time tracking him. And in the same vein, he can create kind of an afterimage. This ability he does by moving so fast, he can create kind of a decoy of himself. Invulnerability. Yeah, it seems, at least so far in the series, no matter what they throw at One Punch, there just isn't an effect. Not even in the vacuum of space. Psychic resistance. In the series, we see One Punch matched up against an extremely powerful psychic, but for all of her abilities, it has virtually zero effect on Saitama. Ultra enhanced senses. His hearing is so advanced that he can hear people miles away. And he can also see in absolute dark. And somehow he's developed a kind of a sixth sense to dodge punches he hasn't even seen. Yes, just watch the series and suspend reality. It's awesome. Okay, so with all of these powers, Saitama dedicates himself to protecting the human race. And being a hero, well, being a hero for fun. And I can't let you go without talking about my top 5 battles. And starting with number 5 is the most absolute absurd villain you could think of. This is the one and only Crab Lante. And he made my list not because he's crazy powerful or like some huge existential threat. It's none of that. But what it does is it sets the stage for how campy and silly the series sometimes can be. So Crab Lante is just a normal guy who eats so much crab that, well, he becomes half crab. And before you ask, yes, he only wears underwear on his bottom half. I don't know why. Well, at this point in the series, Saitama isn't One Punch Man, at least not yet. You see, this is before he starts his legendary training, which we'll talk about later. But he's still able to defeat Crab Lante, but only just barely. This battle is great because it's just episode 1, and you get to learn how Saitama thinks, how he reacts to innocent lives and situations. Number 4 is the battle, well, more of a sparring session with Genos. Genos is not a villain. He is the greatest ally to Saitama. I mean, Genos is 100% ride or die for One Punch and has dedicated himself to becoming One Punch's first student. He wants to be as powerful as Saitama. And when the two finally throw down for a sparring session, it is stunning to see what Genos is capable of. So, Genos is a cyborg with a wide array of powers. I mean, these powers they're generally centered around missiles, but he's got flamethrowers, incinerate attack, thrusters, and while he never really stood a chance against One Punch, this battle is still one of my favorite because it just shows how much heart and what Genos is willing to do to become better. Oh, and as the series goes on, he gets some insane upgrades. Definitely worth the wait. Coming in at number 3, we have Deep Sea King. And as the name implies, Deep Sea King is just that, the king of the deep. So he is super strong and has all kinds of abilities like regeneration, he can spit acid, his tongue is kind of this moray eel type thing that he can shoot out and bite his enemies. He also has this crazy final form that just looks insanely feral, and it doubles his power. Keep in mind, this is a reoccurring theme in the series, that every villain has several forms until they reach their ultimate form. And to be honest, this is kind of a theme in most animes for that matter. The thing I like the most about this battle is how Deep Sea King just rips through so many of the toughest heroes on Earth without really even breaking a sweat. It feels more like a really good gradual build-up to show us how powerful this villain is and what we're getting into. But in the end, One Punch Man does what he does best and destroys the Deep Sea King with one punch. Now, my number 2 guy isn't necessarily a single fight, but kind of an ongoing fight. And this is Garou, aka the Human Monster. Garou is just a human, albeit an extremely powerful and talented human. He is human. And he's trained under the world's greatest hero, who's now turned teacher. Garou was constantly bullied as a child and always rooted for the villains whenever he was watching his kids' shows. So Garou grows up, ends up turning on his master, destroying the dojo, and decides to hunt heroes, earning the title Human Monster. Garou is an ongoing menace in the series that just keeps turning up again and again. And honestly, I'm so happy when he finally gets the beatdown he deserves. I mean, he was kind of like that rabid dog that just needed to be put down. You feel bad for him, but at the same time, he's twisted. And taking the number 1 spot is Barros. I love Barros because he's got that single-minded purpose to simply be the best and most powerful. So this guy is an alien who's traveled across the universe to prove just that. Yes, very two-dimensional, but the fight does not disappoint. It's everything the fans wanted to see. Dazzling animation combined with the perfect use of colors, timing, making this episode the perfect payoff to the series. What I love about this fight is that this is the first time we see a character that actually survives Saitama's punch and not explode. And for just a moment, we think One Punch will finally get the battle that he's dreamed of. But don't twist it up. While it wasn't the battle he really wanted, it's still an amazing fight. Now, at this point, you're probably asking, what kind of training did he undergo? Okay, so the series kind of dangles it along just a little bit before they finally give us an explanation. You ready for this? He does 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 air squats, and runs 10 kilometers every day. Yeah, like I said, very tongue-in-cheek, and as you've guessed, fans haven't really bought into this explanation, and neither have I. And as a result, there are dozens, if not maybe hundreds of theories by fans put out there on exactly how Saitama became so powerful. At any rate, with great power comes great boredom. And as we've covered, Saitama is so powerful that really nothing challenges him. You see, he walks around in kind of a perpetual malaise, and he yearns for the thrill of a worthy opponent, one that will push him to his limit. And unfortunately, at this point in his story, we really haven't seen that fight. But I'm sure the creators have more in store for us, and I, for one, can't wait to see it. Friends, thank you so much for watching. Your support makes this channel possible. So if you haven't already, hit all those buttons down below, and I will talk to you again soon.